everyone, it's Erin with Hail Varsity. I am joined by Greg, also of Hail Varsity, and we are here to recap another Nebraska football practice, or post-practice, I should say.
Yes.
We heard today from, it was mostly tight end day.
It was tight end day. It was definitely tight end.
Definitely tight end. So we heard from Mark Whipple and Brant Banks. Those were your two non-tight end affiliated individuals who talked to us.
Right.
Otherwise, we heard from Sean Beckton and pretty much all of the young tight ends.
Yes.
And now we're going to recap it. All right, Greg, you had a chance to listen to Whipple, so let's start there before we do jump into tight end talk.
Okay.
What did he have to say today?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things for him was being able to take what the team learned about themselves in the scrimmage and then come right back on Monday and then continue to relearn or learn from what happened on those plays. He was really complimentary of how the guys came back this week, because he said it could be really difficult to go through a tough scrimmage like that where they ran a lot of plays and then come back and continue practicing. But he was really happy and pleased with how the guys went into the film room and learned from what happened in that scrimmage. Not that things were necessarily bad, but just how do you continue to grow from there?
Yeah, and I guess for one other non-tight end update, Brant Banks was talking about, especially with that scrimmage, it sounds like it helped. It hasn't solidified any positions yet. He talked about how he really wants to play tackle. That's where he wants to be, but they are really learning every spot on that offensive line right now. He said the benefit to that is, and he looked toward the NFL. He said, look at a guy like Matt Farniak. He's playing center right now, but he was not a center in college. He brought up Brendan Hymas, who is playing a position that he did not play in college. So he talked about how it just makes you a more versatile player. Now, with that said, he did acknowledge the challenges that come with that. Like, if you're right-handed, you don't know how to write with your left hand, but the principles are the same. So he's explaining that switching from right to left, left to right, moving around, the principles are the same, but it does still take practice, because otherwise, it's not as easy as just switching from one side to the other. So that was interesting to me. They're still sorting that out, which in my opinion walks us right into tight end talk, because Sean Beckton himself was talking just about how the offense, he was asked quite a bit about, there's a lot of areas on the offense, especially with his group, that are unsettled, whether it's, competition at certain spots or injuries.
Yeah.
So, what did we learn from the tight ends today?
I think the big headline from the tight ends is going to be the tight end is back. Like, it is going to be featured. That was something that Mark Whipple brought as a part of his offenses that he's kind of instilling into Nebraska's offense. Sean Beckton specifically said that there are multiple plays where the tight end is the first option now. And he knows and tells his guys that you're basically running yourself open on all of the plays, and you have the freedom to also break those routes off depending on how the defense is playing you. And basically, you need to be ready for the football, because you are the first option in a lot of different plays.
And we do know that there's injury, and the tight end room has been plagued by injuries.
Yes.
I do want to just throw out, we did hear from James Carney, that when asked about how cohesive and tight this group is, he did say that they are the tight squad. That is what they are. So out with the mullets, in with the tight squad. I'm not saying they don't have mullets. Did they have
Are there
mullets?
any mullets?
I don't think so.
Bork, as Frost called him, did he have a mullet?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
No
so
one
many
else,
of them after practice, their hair is basically anyway.
They just practiced.
But there's a lot of uncertainty with that group as well as they try to figure out. But one interesting part of this that I took away was that Sean Beckton said Travis Vokolek could be practicing right now. He is practicing a little bit. He has some situations where he's in. All of the tight ends pretty much confirm that. But they want to they want to be smart with him. They don't want to rush him into something before they're ready. So he is still taking kind of a off-field leadership role with this group, but he is starting to get some more work in. It sounds like if they wanted to just let him loose, they could, but they don't want to. They'd rather be safe than sorry. And so it sounds like yes, and so it sounds like a big reason for that is because they know what he's capable of.
Right.
So this is also allowing those younger tight ends the opportunity to get that work in while not expecting him to have to go too far too soon.
Yeah, and it sounds like from basically what all of the tight ends and what Sean Beckton said, that Travis Vokolek isn't just one of the better leaders in that room or the top guy in that room as leadership goes. He's one of the biggest voices on the entire offense. And I think that comes from being a guy that's had multiple years at Nebraska and has kind of worked through some things. But those younger guys really do need those reps. Like, they've got to be able to get out there and continue to hone their craft, because they have to. I think that you're going to have to see those guys play this season. And as Beckton also said whether or not they have to tweak some of the things that they're doing with those tight ends to make sure they can utilize those skill sets. It's going to be interesting to see how that works out.
Now, I know that like somewhere Derek Peterson, who hosts the Varsity Club podcast, is just going to like be pained by me saying this. He did when I talked with him for his podcast last week. They are going to throw the ball. They want to throw the ball, which is part of the reason that you are seeing different plays with the tight end being the first option, because they want to throw the ball.
Just get prepared for it.
Get prepared for it.
It comes up all the time. It really does.
And it's coming up from multiple position groups at this point. The quarterbacks have talked about it. The receivers, tight ends have talked about it. The coaches are talking about it. Pretty much the only people that aren't talking about it are running backs, because they also want to run the ball.
But they could catch the ball out of the backfield. Ramir Johnson probably is just fine with it.
I mean, they can do that. So it's just, I think we are going to see more throws in 2022 than maybe some of the run the ball people want. But I mean, that is what we are consistently hearing. So
it is. But on the flip side of that, on the offensive line portion, Mark Whipple, I want to make note of this, did say that Coach Raiola is doing a really good job of instilling confidence in those offensive linemen. You have heard some things coming out of the scrimmages and practices that they've had, that they've been able to run the ball fairly well. And I think part of that is some of that confidence that Whipple was talking about that unit is playing with. Even though, like Brant Banks said, there's a lot of rotation and guys are kind of figuring out, and so you can have positions that aren't settled. That's definitely one of them. But they are playing with a lot of confidence right now.
We will leave you with this. You should go check out all of the videos that are uploaded here to our Hail Varsity YouTube channel. We will have the full videos available from each of the players that we've talked about, as well as the coaches. But Brant Banks had some interesting things to say about the offensive line and just the differences he's noticed as far as how the group is working in 2022 and how he feels like it's going to be carried into the season. So I really recommend going and listening to what he had to say about that, because there are challenges, there are things that like they're having to work through, but he really feels like this group is working the most cohesively it has in a very long time. So go check it out. All of those videos will be right here on Hail Varsity's YouTube channel. You might as well subscribe while you're here if you haven't already. But we'll have more to come at hailvarsity.com on post practice and other sports too. Like if you're curious how baseball did last night, not so well. Softball, on the other hand, had a heck of a night. Olivia Farrell actually pitched a shutout. So like there's a lot at hailvarsity.com that you should go and check out. So again, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Leave comments. We so appreciate you when you chime in. And then just subscribe. We'd love to have you join us all the time.
That's
Any
correct.
final thoughts?
Tight end day was fun.
Tight squad.
Tight squad.
We'll talk to you later.